All right, welcome to another edition of Magus Talk, and today we got Jay's progress, and it is significant. If anybody's doing this kind of work, what they expect is progress. They expect to see, okay, why am I even doing this? What's going on in my life? Is stuff improving, or how are things developing? And that's what we're going to discuss today. Jay is going to give us several different points of progress and a few challenges, as usual. These are the treasures, animal encounters, and why animal encounters? Well, because the jinn, as I like to call them, appear as chimeric forms, which means they are animals and humans mixed, and various symbols, the head of a lion, the body of a bear, the this, the that, and the other, snakes. So he has encounters that way. Now, not everybody will experience this, but Jay's a kind of shamanically oriented individual. And he's connected to nature, so living in Colorado as he is, he does have these encounters, and they seem to correlate. In other words, this isn't a standard result. This is Jay's own filtration of the situation. So he's going to describe what he does, and in there I'm going to specify certain things to clarify, because sometimes when you do this kind of thing, you take it for granted because you're involved in it so much that if there's somebody out there you want to explain it to, they don't know what the hell you're talking about. So I'm going to backtrack and basically give some basics, but most of this is going to be Jay's account. There aren't overt questions so much. There are a few, and I will also address those. So without any further ado, take it away. Jay, tell us what's going on.
All righty then. Here we go. Hello, I am back. I have successfully summoned Person, which took a really long time. And why did it take a long time? Well, if I were a gambling man, I'm not going to gamble on this one. I'm just going to guess, and I'm not going to risk anything. I think I'm right. If you guys remember back to the gifts that were kind of the quote-unquote gifts that were popping out of the hat or the hole in space or whatever, and I think one was like a little puppy or a little dog. It looked like Snoopy. Another one was a musical instrument, and another one was like pixelated out or mosaicked out. And the cool thing about and Ari, you brought this up, but I just want to focus on it. The organ fusion that I do, you connect certain sense organs with certain actual organs, and one of them you connect your tongue to the heart, and you connect your tongue as a speech organ. And then I do this in kind of a cool way where there's a little dog, or a big dog actually, it's a golden retriever. It changes back and forth between imagery and feeling, and usually now it's both because, well, anyway, in this organ fusion thing, guys, sorry, I hate to stray off from like genie summoning, but this is necessary. You've got this golden ball in your gut area, and that is created just like a clam may create a pearl or whatever. You create this beautiful golden ball of energy of the things around you, whether they're bad or good, it doesn't matter. It's usually bad, at least in my life. You circulate this golden ball around your body, and then it heals you. The point being is that, in my scenario, the golden ball is like a tennis ball that the dog plays with, and the dog connects me to the inner smile, and that connected my tongue with my heart even better. And now I'm singing from my heart, and I can feel it.
I will confirm that Jay is correct in the sense that this inner work that he's doing, this fusion alchemy from the Taoist tradition, is necessary, especially for him. Now you might say, well, isn't this supposed to be a self-sustaining system? Isn't this just supposed to be about genie work, or whenever you do this, you're supposed to just do this? It's an infrastructure, okay? The system of transformation that uses spirits is an infrastructure. You don't just summon spirits, a spiritual infrastructure or shamanic infrastructure. This is important. It's an important concept because many people think we just do magic to just get laid, get paid, get even, get material things, or get wisdom, or get this, get that, whether it's a mental thing or a physical thing. And what wisdom is here is you understand how these things work at a gut level, and through the heart and through the mind. So you realize that, okay, I'm doing this, but at the same time, I need resources. And in one way, not just the only way, but in one way, the treasures that some of these jinn promise, because you see, oh, buried treasure. Well, this isn't necessarily literal. How many people go out there, oh yeah, grab your metal detector and let's go find buried treasure? This is allegorical, meaning that the buried treasure is something that will help you manifest what the jinn offer. So the jinn are spirits. They don't just make things happen for you and you sit back. Many people will argue, no, that's exactly what they do. Well, yeah, well, then go pay the price, or the prices, or what are you going to give from your side? You don't get something for nothing here. So in this case, instead of going and making deals and dealing with a certain subconscious and the collective unconscious and certain karmic things, so to speak, cause and effect that you may not quite understand, or anybody, not just you, or because you're not experienced enough or wise enough, but you get into this thing and stuff happens that may blindside you and go, why? Oh, it's evil. No, it's ignorance. So here's an infrastructure for anybody who wants to do a occult process and not get caught up in the good and evil fucking trap. Now, I'm not saying there is no such thing as something good and healthy, wholesome, whatever, and something bad, unhealthy, destructive, or even evil, hateful, malevolent. You can even be corrupted by that kind of stuff. I'm saying that this is an art and a science, and it's unlike most arts and sciences and technologies that we know today. So it might be even better to call it something else. That being the case, the metaphor in this case is that, look, the jinn are going to move you to progress and awaken your own potential and empower you in a way that is realistic for whatever your circumstances are. This isn't miracles. What this is removing obstacles from your way and moving the events in the right direction so this can progress. And then you become stronger. For example, if you're going to take drugs to build your muscles up, is that really healthy? Nature doesn't like that, you see. All alchemy, all esotericism, it says, look, we're working with nature. Even St. Augustine said that miracles are just that part of nature that we don't know about, we don't understand, so we call it supernatural, but it's really natural. Just another version of natural, not the conventional natural. And that's the most realistic way to approach any kind of esotericism. That's how shamans approached it. They were very pragmatic people. They had to be. All shamans, whether they're good, bad, or whatever, those are all means of expression, and I don't condone the bad ones. In fact, I'm highly, highly thinking that, this is corrupting and there's consequences and it's not good at all. However, in this case, if you approach the spirits in a pragmatic manner and not a wasteful manner and not a flippant manner, they will reflect the same thing back to you. And this is exactly what Jay is doing here and how this system works. The thing is that you don't have to do some discipline that's going to eat away years of your life, that's going to eat away at your being because you're focused on it and you have to sacrifice all these things. Now, you're going to do what's best for you. That's where the interaction comes in. And they're not just advisors in this case. They actually move events for you. Events that you could have manifested yourself if you had the potency, if the obstacles were not in the way, etc., etc. So it's a synergistic dynamic, and it is a symbiosis in this case, where the lines between are the jinn parts of us or are they independent beings, that line blurs and you don't even have to think about it. The point is that this interaction is healthy because you are being sensible about it and mature about it, esoterically mature. So, a lot of times when you say, well, there's no good and evil, well, sometimes the malignancy, the malignant consciousness manipulates that concept. Just so it can say, well, if there's no good and evil, I can do all the evil I want, but it's not classified that way, so you can't react to it. Ha, ha, ha. That's not the way it is either. Here you attain clarity. And so Jay describes these treasures that are given because in the tantric tradition, you also have accomplishments when you do the work, the sadhana, in some kind of yoga, kundalini or otherwise. Mantra yoga, for example, you have specific accomplishments. It'll give you this or that or the other. And these accomplishments are often known as treasures, riddhi or siddhi, which means accomplishment. So the esoteric tradition uses that metaphor, and I don't think it's just in India. In Taoism, you have the three treasures, which are the energetics of the body-mind. The Shen, the Jing, the Qi. And in this case, Jay describes the symbolism of three treasures, not the same ones, but in terms of a practice that I offered to him because I felt it was right up his alley. And they created a kind of foundation because he said, look, I'm having problems with my emotions when I connect to this thing. Upheavals, this and that. And I said, well, you need to kind of cleanse. It's almost like fasting, where you need to fast before you do some kind of regimen, exercise regimen or something like that. But this is a kind of, not even a spiritual fasting. It's a purification process, and he's describing it. He's described it before. I've described it a little bit. But the point is that what he's described is almost, I need to complement it a little bit. So when he talks about the golden ball drawing in everything, the good and the bad, this is your breath chi energy. So you draw it into your body and you focus it on the lower elixir field, the navel. And the area here is a couple of inches within the body. It's at the center of the body, but at the level of the navel. Maybe a little lower, but not more than like a finger width. There's a misconception that it's like 3 or 4 fingers width below the navel, but from what I understand, this was calibrated by a person lying down. So when you're lying down and you go, it's below, well, yeah, it's toward the center of the body. In any case, this golden ball is an energy ball that you suck in energy from the environment in a certain manner. There's a specific method to this. And you collect it, put your attention on the lower elixir field and behind the navel, and it collects. Now, the reason for the dog, the golden retriever, is because you want to create a loving, appreciative, a harmonized state of mind. And Jay's a dog lover, so this is the most obvious thing. And golden retriever, playing with the energy, connects with the so-called inner smile, because the inner smile is a very fundamental practice, introductory and advanced, that means you're simply focusing or smiling within yourself. Wherever you want good harmonized energy to go, you just smile at it. You have good intentions toward it. You love it. So this is like loving a little puppy. And then the dog plays around with the thing, so the dog, which interacts with this loving energy, so to speak, will move the energy through the meridians. And it's as simple as that. And Jay and what happens during this process is that, yeah, one of the organs that gets purified is the heart, and the sense organ, and the heart's considered an active sense. It's connected to an active sense, and the active sense is that of speech. So the tongue is the actual sense organ connected to the heart, even though the mouth is connected to the digestive system as a whole. The mouth as a whole is connected to the digestive system. So when you connect to the tongue as a muscle of speech, you can sense all the way down to your heart if you follow your attention. And Jay's been doing this and interacting with this golden loving energy, and it's been purifying the heart to the point that his singing, I mean the vocal organs, the organ of speech and all of that has improved and has become connected to the heart, because when you sing, you emote. And this is a heartfelt emotion. And the more positive it is, the more you resonate this into the environment as an energy, and other people can feel it. So your singing has impact, and it has impact to you and to others. Now this is significant because Jay is going to describe a condition of, as soon as you develop something like this, it's not guaranteed, and that's one of the reasons we do the jinn work, is because, yeah, well, why not just do the exercise and, or whatever, the yoga or the focus, and manifest that way? Well, it's because there are parameters in the environment and karma and the flow of events that may come in the way. There are obstacles that may be put in the way. There may be sabotage. Somebody like focuses and prays and does, and all of a sudden they win the lottery, and all of a sudden bad luck comes with it. And the jinn are there to help you through that. This isn't just alchemy for transformation. This is karmic alchemy. This is to transform your relationship with the world, so when good things are about to happen through your intention, they keep happening. And the universe becomes generous toward you because you reflect a certain healthy state of body-mind. So let's continue and see where this takes us. Okay, Jay, what else is going on here?
There are plenty of things I can't do. It used to be sing. I just basically tried to be part of the group so that they could harmonize with me. Now I can just take a song and make it mine. And I never liked my voice before, and this is like, wow. Okay, so it took Person a long time to get things rolling, I think, because of, one, I was given that gift. Two, and I think the mosaic part of that third gift was, because the first gift is that inner smile, which is probably going to extend my life. The second gift was the proof of it is, you can see it in your singing. But that third one is maybe, or maybe it's not Person, maybe it's just, who knows what it is, but I think it's a gift of not being vampired, because that came back in a hard way.
A brief interjection here. This is the point where we come to what I might call a lesson. You see, the third treasure or gift was pixelated. Why was it pixelated? Was it some mystery that he wasn't supposed to know? Well, no, because what happens is that he was given something. It's almost like you're baking a cake, okay? So instead of the jinn giving you a cake, they give you the flour, the eggs, an oven to cook them in, the milk, and et cetera, all the ingredients. So he's got the ingredients now. And the ingredients, the cooking part, is the confrontation with what you might call the karma itself. So his intuition that this may be the end of the vampirism is more than likely correct. And this is a gift of Person, because Person also informs you about the nature of creation and has to do kind of indirectly with the nature of karma, in the sense of your own initiative, your own wisdom in dealing with it. There are what you might call the serpents that he holds, which is, this isn't just a being that's aerial or etheric. It's also a being that handles energy. Serpent energy is earth energy, goddess energy, yin in Taoist terms, and even what we might call kundalini shakti or prana. So it's dense energy, and it's the energy of wisdom, because in the West, serpents also relate to wisdom, and wisdom relates to transformation. So it all comes around. So we're exploring here this pixelated dynamic that Jay is challenged to bring into focus. Let's look at what happens.
I went in to play music like I always do at the end of the day. We were in the recording studio that we have, which is just a small little office space. But anyway, when my dad made it, he soundproofed it. We were in there, and I started playing. Everything was okay. And then my brother started giving me advice about singing. And it was good advice. This was not bad advice. This is good advice. But, man, when it was said, I lost all coordination. I lost all desire. I lost everything. And then I gotta go, man. I'm done. My brother looked at me and he was like, "Man, are you okay?" Because it's coming from him. I know that, and you know. And he was like, "It looks like you've got like a weight on your shoulders, man. What's going on?" I was like, "Oh, well, okay, great." So that was. Now, I'm not the kind of guy to really get down and depressed, and that's just not me. I'm more, if something's not going my way, I just get really, really angry to a dysfunctional point. Now, I would never lash out and hurt anyone, but I do think about it. And so that's the direction I usually go. But at this point, I was just like, I'm screwed. If this happens on stage, for me, you know, performing on stage, it always has been. It's been a big deal. And I want to be as professional as I can. But if this kind of thing happens, I'm done. I can't play. It's just not going to happen. So there we go, and that's what I was stuck with, and I was like, God, I thought this shit was over, and I don't know if this kind of thing will ever be over. I just want it minimized, man. Just anything, because at this stage of the game, if that happens, like I said, I can't play. So something has to happen, period, or I'm done.
This little description warrants a commentary, because it's a major, what we might call a karmic insert. Now, why is that? Well, if you backtrack a little bit, there was a dream Jay had once when we were just starting the 4 portals here in the east, west, north, and south. And in the south one, he was saying he dropped the ball because of something. And originally he started with Zaleos or Salos, who makes you charismatic and loved by, in the grimoire it says men to women and women to men, a kind of relationship type thing. But it also offers a certain charisma. And he played in, he had a gig and was tuning into this energy, and he saw his charisma go up, and then poof, it got drained. So this is a major issue. And remember, when he was doing the east-west direction, there was a positive movement to the point that Dr. J here thought that, well, it's over. I resolved the issue. And he even had some dreams where in those dreams his mother was angry, his brother was angry, and because they didn't get to tap in like they used to. So that form of the issue is resolved. In other words, I would say that the direct day-to-day constant vampire barrage or draining is not going to happen. Of course, it hasn't been resolved permanently because you need to emphasize you need to cultivate it. In other words, we'll see that once Jay is done with the 4 directions, he's got to sustain them all at once before he can move on to the next cross. By cross, I mean you shift into the next astrological zone, the next decan, in the east and the west and the north and the south. So you kind of rotate this 4-directional cross by one click, so to speak, and then deal with those issues. So it's progressive. It goes deeper and denser each time. This is just the first contact. So he's being given a kind of revelation of how the vampirism works. And in this case, this is what I would call a sugar-coated curse, or an artificially flavored curse. And it almost works like a form of hypnosis, because what happens is that the words are neutral or even decent, so you open up your conscious mind to them. Your reasoning says, well, there's nothing bad being said here, I don't need to be defensive. And yet there's an underlying energy that transfers through that affects the subconscious with a suggestion of, shut down, shut up, a threat. And it's not like the brother is doing this, has the ability to do this to everybody. This is done conditioning over time, over one's whole relationship with one's family, the other stuff going on, various issues have given this access where he can just say, hey, how you doing? And whereas his feelings, his intention, his energy, so to speak, is hostile. I hate you because you're better than me, and I want to have what you have, so shut up. Well, how does that even work? Well, think about it this way. Imagine somebody coming into your house and plugging into all of your appliances, taking all of your appliances offline and plugging their appliances into your sockets and everywhere, using your internet, using your lights, so you can't use them. And in a sense, you're not even seeing their light. You're in the dark. You're in the cold, you're in the dark, but you still got to pay the electric bill that they're using. So they don't have to expend their own energy. That's how vampirism works. It isn't like they take your energy and run with it and use it. No, they plug directly into you. And you are powering their ambitions. And the cost of powering these ambitions is way more than if you were using the ambitions, if you were powering yourself, because you're left unfulfilled, you're left starved, and at the same time, you're expending energy, much more than you would if you were serving yourself, because when you serve yourself, when you manifest for yourself, you become fulfilled, there's a feedback loop, it nourishes, and so it's self-sustaining. Here you're being drained, you become miserable, and because Jay is aware of all of this and aware of the implications, his rage is the defense mechanism to liberate yourself. You want to shake it loose. You want to pull all those damn plugs out of their sockets. You want to kick the interloper out. And you have to get kind of energized to do that, and that manifests as rage. Only he doesn't know how to do that. And this is where the jinn comes in. And remember that he had this dream of messing up, that there was that gig early on where Salos was drained from him. How does that happen? We go back to the portal itself, where there are 2 pillars of the portal, and one of them is dominated by the day jinn and the other one by the night jinn. The day jinn is the establishing factor, and the night jinn is what powers the establishing factor. In other words, you can think about it in terms of an equation or a phrase saying, well, to manifest the gifts of Salos, I manifest the gifts of Salos by person. So first I manifest the night jinn and imbibe that and absorb the power of the night jinn, and then through everything the night jinn gives me, then I manifest the day jinn. If I try to just manifest the day jinn, it's going to be partial. And the night jinn, of course, will be partial, but it's purposed specifically toward reinforcing the day jinn. In that sense, you have both pillars. You have the power of the night jinn and the day jinn together supporting the portal. And the portal in this case is, I forget what it is specifically, but it represents the access to the quality or energy that allows you to essentially energize your presence in the world. This is the southeast direction. It is actually where the south cardinal point comes in. And if you think about it astrologically, the south is really the direction overhead. Because in the celestial sense, and the Jin circle is connected to the celestial sense quite a bit. In the celestial sense, the south direction is really the zenith, the noonday direction. It's the direction right above, and this is correlated with what's called the midheaven in astrology. The midheaven is where your career aspects lie because it's the overview of your life. It's what you do in life that everybody can see. It's your public self. So anything you want to do, and playing music for the public comes into that category. It isn't just for personal use. It's in a relationship where whole crowds say, who is Jay? Oh, he's the musician guy. He's the guy that makes us feel good with his singing. And so instead of doing that and being fulfilled by it, you have this other force coming in saying, no, I want to be the musician guy, but I don't believe in myself. I hate myself or whatever. I'm not up to it and I can't. But why not just drain Jay? Why not just plug into his electrical sockets, so to speak, and make him do this? His shamanic abilities, his latent potency. And then Jay cannot actualize his potency. He may not even know he even has potency or anything like that unless something happens to reveal that in some way. And then the other side, because it has access, no, I'm not unplugging because I got your subconscious here. I'm not letting go because I still have access because I got the codes to the kingdom, the keys to your house, so to speak, and I got the keys to your fuse box, and you gave me those keys sometime earlier on in our lives for whatever reason, and whether you were fooled into it, whether it was some guilt, whether it was some karma from some other life, or, we're not getting into that kind of thing. What matters is that access is there. And many people who would otherwise be empowered, because there's different types of people. One size does not fit all. And there are some people who found a little strategy to be able to, and there is a certain karma going on here, to justify doing this to the point that it's being allowed. And you can't lash out. You can't be violent. There's no way that this works that way. What you can do is reclaim everything. You can say, well, I just changed all my locks, including the fuse box, and you can't have access to my plugs here, to my outlets, because I've changed those too, and they're incompatible with your devices. Ha ha ha. How does that work? Well, this is where Pursan comes in and where he helps you, because think about it this way. In order to gain the charisma of Zaleos, in order to gain this quality of leadership even, because the thing about Salos is you only have a few lines in the grimoire. And these are a variant of another grimoire where Zaleos is not just oriented with love relationships, but he's also a more aggressive, energetic type. So it's about energy, maintaining your energy in a high level that circulates into the environment, that circulates into what you do in the world and supports it. So you can be not just charismatic for personal needs, but charismatic in your job, etc. And in the same way, Pursan bestows what you might call regional authority. No, I'm sorry, that's Oribus. See, we got too many jinn here going on. But Pursan bestows a certain understanding of divine matters. Pursan also bestows a certain, shall we say, has a certain field. So through that field, you can access your own abilities. It's treasures. So he tells you where buried treasure lies. He reveals where your own potential is in case you forgot, in case it's been clouded over, in case life's been beating you down so much that you don't even know what your worth is. You can't even make it up. Even your imagination is thwarted. So Person helps spark this up. And then through those abilities, through the power of that awakening, you can fire up your charisma, your leadership abilities, your abilities to charm people, especially the opposite sex or whatever sex you prefer. And in this case, this is what is going on from here on in. From here on in, Jay describes positive things. He describes that, look, I saw a serpent, I saw a snake, I saw a bear, which is not that common, but not that uncommon, but it's just enough to tell you, look, Person is acting here. He's around this whole, it's around this whole event. This event is more than just being victimized. So let's see how this works out, because I'm not going to give a solution here. This isn't what this is about. This is about gaining the power to fire up Salos to the point that it cannot be accessed. This is a point where once you realize, and here's another thing, let's give a psychology example. There's a technique called Ericksonian hypnosis that the psychologist, Erickson, obviously, what he would do would be to just talk to his patients about different topics. But he would word those topics and he would evoke imagery in such a way that once the conversation was done, the patient was like, okay, let's get on to the therapy here. Well, you've just been cured. And the patient's like, what do you mean? And then looks into themselves and, oh, I don't feel this anxiety anymore. I don't have this issue with this relative anymore. I'm healed, And how does this work? Well, Ericksonian hypnosis, many have tried to copy it, but he never taught anybody how he did this. And I suspect it's more intuitive than it is structured rationally. Neurolinguistic programming is someone's attempt to reverse engineer Ericksonian hypnosis, where you use words to manipulate people, to create moods, to create likability. You use body language, words, all kinds of things. Erickson essentially emanated an energy, in my opinion. Now, he would do the opposite of the sugarcoating the curse. He would create an artificial flavor or aroma or whatever, an artificial coating for a blessing, for the positive energy of the patient to heal and to stimulate the patient to heal. He would essentially clothe this and drape it in a regular conversation. However, everything that he said and did was designed to trigger the event and to stimulate a kind of suggestion that said, you don't have this issue anymore. Don't worry about it. Release it. Because it is in your head, because you're being suggested every day. And I don't think that even the psychologist knew this. But in a way, he was doing a shamanic act. So he was giving people the energy, the examples, the imagery to be able to orchestrate their own resistance to whatever was afflicting them and finally to release it. Because hypnotherapy does work. And this is a form of hypnotherapy. Marketing engages hypnosis. Of course, we know this. There is such a thing as subliminal suggestion. Although it isn't quite what people think, but it still operates below the threshold of whatever you visibly, you consciously are aware of. There's other things going on. So shamanism, psychology, esotericism, energetics, altered states of consciousness, all of these things combine. You don't have to say, oh, this is woo-woo. No, it's based on stuff we know, but the stuff we know, socially, rationally, is partial. And here it's engaged in a different manner. So the spirits give you a different access to what already works in a way and extend it beyond. So let's see how all of this operates, what Person is telling Jay, and how he can move through it, because at the end of the day, he needs to complete all 4 jinn pairs. and open up all 4 portals. And we're going to get to that maybe in the next, once he finishes the next pair, which is Oribus and Gremory. And interestingly, Gremory, now we have the reverse. The charisma bestowing spirit in the north direction is the night gen, while the spirit of protection and empowerment, you might say, and knowledge is the day gen. So he can use his sensual energy here, anchoring in the so-called north direction, to awaken qualities similar to what Person has from the other way. So they work together. The axis work just like the east and west works together. The north and the south works together. But that's a detailed topic for another podcast. This is important because I know that many people are afflicted with these kinds of things, that all of a sudden you're like, yeah, let's go do this, and then poof, it falls flat. And perhaps there is some other agency involved. It may not be a person. It may be in your own mind, some kind of conditioning. It can be the environment, but you're always attracted to the same traumatizing type pattern. And this isn't really, it is psychology to a certain degree, but it's a psychology that connects to the energetics of your body-mind, to your higher mind, to your spirit, to the heart. It connects to everything. It isn't just the metaphor of being programmed like a computer. That doesn't serve us all that much, but we still use it. So let's get on to the next segment. All right, Jay, what have you experienced here after this or around this event?
I can't remember if it was after this or before this. I think it was before this, where Person, I felt and I think I maybe even mentioned it in the last podcast that Ari posted, that Person definitely delivered it was kind of like if you could imagine being a phone being charged up, but really fast. That's what it felt like. Now, that's probably the terrible Viper. But for me, it was awesome. And I did see a snake, and one of the most unusual places, it was a water snake. Okay, we have a creek next to us, but this was like way too far up. Well, not way too far up, but it was an unusual place. You see the water snakes on the creek. This water snake had no business being as high as he was. Who knows why he was there? I don't know. And he was a big snake. And I'm like looking at that guy going, and he crawled into our garage, which is another weird place they hang out on the water. So that was an unusual sighting. But this was the kicker. The night that I got vampired that I just described, and I was like, I'm even still genuinely worried, which I'm not a worrier either. It's just, so I guess I can't say worry because it's not like, oh no, it's like, I'm just like, oh Jesus, if this happens, if it happens on stage, what do I do? So I think also the genies have been just throwing these technical obstacles in our way to where we can't play until things get done properly. And I'm not fighting that at all. It's like, hey, it's like, for example, we can't, I'm not going to give the details because it's just too much to go into, but we can't properly check our sound. We need 3 people to check our sound. We need 1 to go out and listen, 2 to sing. We need another to go out and listen, and the other 2 to sing. And we need the 3rd, and that's just the way it has to be. Now that we only have 2 people because my nephew's not here, well, then that just throws a wrench into the cogs, and the machine is now broken down, and we're having to buy different devices where we can go out and play, just cordless Bluetooth type things where we can just go out and play and just listen to ourselves sing from our speakers so we can sing in the crowd as if we're on stage singing. But, it takes time to shop around. But I think that the genies are helping by just throwing those kinds of problems in the mix because, I can't go up on stage like that. That's impossible. So anyway, after I got vampired like that, which was very disheartening, this really cool thing happened. I saw a bear. Now usually when there's a big bear, roughly 200 pounds, they get bigger. And they're black bears. You want to respect them, but they're not grizzly. They're not territorial. But anyway, when you look at these guys, they're just so clumsy and awkward and funny. They're just a funny, lumbering animal when they don't know you're looking at them. But when they know you're looking at them, that's a totally different animal. Now, I've had, and we know Person rides a bear. So now I've done lots of Tai Chi, and I've even made up, not necessarily martial art forms, but I can get into the movement of anything. Doesn't matter what it is. If it's an eagle in the sky, if it's a hawk, if it's a rock on the mountain, I can these things have different movement that I can feel into. But I'm not feeling into and Ari was explaining this, and he was correct. It was way back in the day, Ari, that, I feel into the energy of an eagle or whatever. It doesn't matter. It could be a chipmunk. But it's kind of what the shamans did, and maybe the Native Americans when they would do their quote-unquote shape-shifting. You just move like the spirit of the animal. But that's not what happened with this bear. Now, another thing happened to me a couple of years ago in Arizona where this guy was a friendly enough guy, but he said, "You better look out. There's a rattlesnake I saw across the road." It was like in some populated campsite or whatever. And then, the rattlesnake was coiled up in the bushes. And he started taunting it and laughing at it. And I'm like going, well, you're an idiot. But then the snake, and I was about maybe 15 yards away or 15 meters away, depending on what country you're from. But that snake looked at me in the eyes, and I made a connection. And for a small period of time, I wanted to kill that man. Now, again, I'm not going to lash out and do anything stupid like that, but I felt that at the time, I didn't understand it. But I felt it in my heart. Now, back to that bear. When that bear saw me looking at him, he changed. He stood up. And the first time I've ever seen a bear stand up live. I've seen it videos, obviously. And it's the first time I ever met eyes with a bear. Now, he was across the creek. Probably about, I don't know. I'm going to go over there right now and check that out. It was across a creek in a clearing, and it was where I meditate and summon and do everything. I sit down at this little spot. I'm looking at it right now. And he was across the creek, which would be about 25 yards away, 25 meters away or so. And I saw a perfect view of him. And he saw me. I looked into his eyes. I felt that bear spirit in my heart. That was, I can't put that into words other than just the way I said it, but that was one of the coolest things that have ever happened to me. And that was after being vampired. And I think Person was trying to keep up your spirits kind of thing. It's not as bad as you think.
Not only is it not as bad as you think, but this is all part of a process. Person, for example, rides a bear, but this isn't a literal bear. More likely, we're talking about celestial imagery. And you can see the Big Dipper in the wintertime especially. It will revolve around the pole star. The Big Dipper relates to the axis of the Earth, which in esoteric terms relates to the axis of the human being. Person relates to a certain stability, to a certain quality of energy, and the stars of the Big Dipper play a role in Taoist cosmology and in Taoist alchemy. They kind of activate the axis of the human body at the point known as the Brahmarandra in the back of the head, the high portion of the back of the head. It's called the rear fontanelle. So the crown chakra, so to speak, is actually the crown on the top, tippy top of the head. But if you go backwards, you see this point where the hair grows around it like in a spiral. And this is a point of entrance of radiation from the cosmos, you might say. In any case, it's an energy point. And so Person relates to that kind of energy. The viper is not so much the Kundalini energy coming from the root or the ground, but it has to do with the entrance of that energy at the top of the head from the cosmos or flowing into the cosmos. It's a physiological crown that connects to the parietal lobe of the brain, which happens to rule our spatial awareness. So our spatial awareness is the sense of an energy body or aura that surrounds the physical body. And this is the aerial body that Person represents. It's how the human energy field incorporates these celestial powers. To ground these celestial powers, Person is that catalyst. And the power of that catalyst awakens Salos. And Salos, technically, to reiterate here, it means a kind of chaotic disruption. So Salos, the deeper nature, isn't expressed in the grimoire. It's given once you make contact and interact with the jinn. Then you start getting intuitions about it. You start experiencing it. You start meditating on it, whatever. And the understanding can be tested. And in this case, Salos is like, yeah, it can disrupt the minds of people you're attracted to, for example. It disrupts their normal conditioning, so they see you in a positive way because you're expressing positive life force. They like that, so that makes you attractive. It's not a coercive effect. Destructures things. It doesn't destroy per se, but it destructures your conditioning, just like other jinn do, in different ways. And Person, as Jay will say, he has a webby type feel. Well, of course, because it's the expansive energy around you. It's not really a web. It's more subtle. It's more ethereal, but it can be seen that way. You see, what Jay wants to do now, he doesn't know, but I'll tell him, what he needs to do is to stimulate Salos in the sense of the disrupting type of presence. So instead of being vampired, because it's a nice benign energy, because he's a nice guy, he doesn't want to disrupt people too much, and instinctively it works like that. Instead, Salos will basically rock the boat psychically, so the so-called vampire cannot plug into his sockets. And Person is the one that's going to coordinate his energy body to be able to do that. See, they work together. They will tell you how to work because they're structured in the system that way. So whether you do this deliberately or not, they will guide you in this sense. The problem is that they work with symbols in a way that the operator, the summoner, needs to learn to read. And that takes time to develop that kind of intuitive linguistic ability, so to speak. What is Person trying to tell Jay here? It is that, yes, you've seen the viper, the snake and all of that. You connected to the spirit. You've connected to the bear. But how did you connect both times? And what does that relate to the same pattern that you described, Jay, in the early part of your account? Not with the animals, but I'm talking about the whole podcast here. And that is the heart. You see, the tongue, where he does this is a singing thing. It's not, the jinn are using it as a kind of karmic example, because vampirism doesn't just occur here. This is just an example of it. And so his heart feels, or your heart, Jay, feels this connection, and you're able to express it in singing. And the heart is where the treasures lie. The dog, the golden ball, the color gold connects to the heart. It's our value. It's the balance between the lower part of the body and the upper part of the body. So this is what the vampire is crushing. And vampires, how do you kill a vampire? You drive a stake through their heart. You drive wood. Wood represents the life force, you might say. But that's not what you want to do here. This is a whole antagonistic mindset. We're doing this in the reverse. We are giving life force into our own hearts. And Jay described this precisely when he said it's like a phone being charged, only quicker. So his heart's being charged, and then something's harvesting it by threatening his subconscious with something. that doesn't even matter. See, that's the good point. You don't have to go, oh, what am I afraid of? What is threatening me? I have to face it. No, all you have to do is understand that it's not for you. You don't have to face things. You only need to accept your own feelings about them and how you respond to them. You don't deny anything either, because you're not denying yourself. You're denying something that has nothing really to do with you, even though you're responsible for it because you're responding to it. Responsibility. And in this case, it is the heart that connects to person. It is the heart that connects to the celestial energies and the terrestrial energies. So Jay is describing later on that, yeah, I don't really do Kundalini yoga well, or this or that, or mantras, because that's what I kind of do. But I have, through all the other work, energies have started moving in the body a lot more than they used to. And that's a good thing. But as that happens, unless you really wake up to interacting with the world through that awakening, it's not enough to just be on the mountaintop and awaken and then go down and teach people, write a few books, do some impressive things. This is owning it and living a pragmatic life through owning it. So it is applicable to the world, and you don't have to go, okay, Jane, do this, do that. No, you're doing it. It's far better that way. First of all, nothing gets lost in the translation, and second of all, you are actually contributing to everything, so you're going to get gifts. These treasures will be revealed to you as you go along because you're actually helping everything. It's a fair exchange, in fact. Instead of you sacrificing something to offer to some entity that you don't even know if the entity even wants it, or even if it does want it, if it's not going to be a price that's too high, instead of doing that, you cultivate your own abilities, and if you do it the right way, they will naturally contribute to the world. They will naturally nourish your environment. You, by being yourself in a healthy way, will nourish your environment. That's what humans are supposed to do in ways that, most people can't even imagine. Now, let's get to the final segment because I've overspoken, I think.
Now, one of the things that I'm not good at is Kundalini yoga and mantras. Now, I've used mudras before, and I've had lots of gain with that way back in the day, but they don't really work all that much for me either. But I do practice Om a lot. Just saying that mantra over and over again. And I've definitely noticed some improvement. I don't know, Ari, maybe you should send me something on the side about that would maybe, because you used to, and, I don't want to quit. I did quit for a long time and then started back up, and I don't want to quit again because I just feel that eventually in the long run, something like that may pay off. And if it doesn't, I'm not really wasting that much time with it anyway. But anyway, along with Person's vibe and Terrible Viper, I do feel a little bit more of a surge of energy slowly, coming up from my body and building up into my head. But again, that's not a main thing in my life, but that is a thing I'm doing, so all right.
When I first heard this segment, I was like, let's not mix the pot too much, because you already have the process that you're doing, you already have the Taoist stuff that's going on, and you have a rudimentary meditation with the Om process. You really don't need more. The thing is that to do meditation proper, what you would call Kundalini yoga or any kind of real yoga, where you promote a specific altered state of awareness, you need a certain psychoenergetic integrity. When you do sadhana, or what you would call the meditative work, usually surrounding a deity, and you do what they call a root mantra, which stimulates the spinal energies usually and the basic vibration of the deity. You go through a process of sealing certain energy centers so bad vibes from the environment don't come in. That's because the meditation makes you vulnerable to this. It sensitizes you. It opens up your aura. So what the Jinn are doing now in this case is leaving you, guiding you through your karma, through your sensitivities, through what your vulnerabilities, Jay, to the degree that you are motivated to do something about them, and then they interact with the Jinn to tell you what to do about them, or to help you in that regard. So you're not just doing mindfulness or some sort of attentive focus. Meditation proper is that actually activates the forces here. Now you're doing this gradually, of course. Even attention and mindfulness will, and a little bit of vibration will progress you. But at this point, I would think it's still a preliminary thing before that kind of divine type of consciousness, for which I've sensed that I don't think you're ready for that under these circumstances. You got to make sure your heart is sustained in a certain psychic immune system sense. So it's best to begin in earnest like that after the initiatory Jinn cycle. However, you are discovering all of these things, and the Jinn are guiding you through your karmic progression according to your transformation needs. So you don't need to outpace them, because that is not healthy and it can lead to crises. It's like before you got into the fusion alchemy, there were emotional upheavals. You were starting to get into the process, and certain Kabbalistic meditations that I was sharing, and it caused emotional upheavals. Now that doesn't mean you can't use mantras, and it doesn't, but the mantra has to be compatible with you, and I think I've found one here. So I will provide a mantra that is compatible, and it's an all-purpose, very short, 3-word protection mantra. It will, what it does is it vibrates the aura and your energy system in such a way that it'll release anything that's trying to latch onto you. That includes intentions from others, evil eyes, psychic attacks, black magic, non-corporeal entities, ghosts, things like that, necromantic stuff, demonic stuff. But it also includes negative astrological influences, celestial influences that are incompatible with you, psychic toxic influences, even stuff like bad luck, misfortune, bouts of depression. It has a positive influence on psychology, so it's very powerful. What's more, this mantra will start working from the very moment you start working with it. However, it needs 125,000 repetitions to reach its full potential, where you really do like 100. And this sounds like a big number, and it is, but this is again a 3-word mantra. You can do 1,000 repetitions in about an hour, going at a decent pace. You can do, and that would be 125,000 in about four months of doing an hour every day. Or you can do 100 mantras, 100 repetitions after you get this primed up, or however many you need, because you get a sense of it. You do a few repetitions, you do 10, 20, 30, and then you notice that the pressure that you feel, the psychic pressure, and this will also sensitize you to that. You will know when you really need this. Stuff will feel off, and when it feels off, you do this mantra and it'll release that. So let me just get to this mantra. It's your choice if to use it, and because there's another thing, you need to get the pronunciation right. And this mantra happens to have a fairly easy pronunciation, except for one point which we'll discuss right now. Now, it's 3 words. The first 2 words are a syllable each, And the second word is 2 syllables, so that's 4 syllables. Now, in Sanskrit, some syllables, they go through beats. So a vowel can be a short vowel, which means it's 1 beat, like a metronome beat. And you have a long vowel, which is 2 beats. So long vowels and short vowels are not the same as in English. Now, the first syllable and the first word is I'm, which is pronounced the same way as the English I apostrophe M. I'm a boy. Okay, so I'm. And then the M, of course, is nasalized like om. I'm. The next one also uses the same vowel I'm, but it has a PHR before it. So let's go backwards. Say I'm, then go rhyme, because you have an R. Now before that, you add an H, haraim. And before that, you add a P, prime. Now, this PH isn't like a F sound, like an F sound as in English, and it's not a PH sound. It's not paharaim. It's one single letter, PH, so it's an aspirated P. You essentially exhale when you say the P. Puh, puh, puh. Whereas if it didn't have the H, it'd be puh, 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 and puh. It's a subtle difference, but you can feel the exhale. So, I'm prime. So it sounds like prime, but it's a prime. I'm prime namaha. Namaha is the third word, and it's made of 2 syllables, nam, na, and ma. Now, the final H isn't really a ha sound. What it is, it's a kind of breath sound you make when you cut the vowel off. Nama. It's something like that, but you go nama, namaha. So the I'm prime namaha. I'm prime namaha. Now, this is done best subvocally, meaning you can whisper it, I'm prime namaha, under your breath, and you get an even greater energetic effect. But the best effect is gotten, once you got the pronunciation down, is do it mentally, where it's completely silent to anybody else. You're thinking the mantra, you're vocalizing it in your mind, and the vocal cords and the energy system, they go through kind of micro movements where it has an even more profound effect than the vocalization, and you're not restricted by your physiology in pronouncing it. So if you get the theory of pronunciation right, you can actually mentalize it like that. So if you can do 1,000 of these per day, which is about an hour's, and you don't have to do them like sitting cross-legged or whatever. You can do it as long as you focus on the thing and feel the vibration. You can also do it when you feel feel distress or anything like that, because it works from the first sitting. But it works more and more the more you use it. And eventually, you can just do a certain minimal amount, depending on the crisis or whatever happens, and you will get the results, and you'll see. In fact, this mantra is almost like, well, instead of doing the genies at all, I'll just do this. And yeah, that works, but the thing is, there's so many mantras, and they're so specific that you need to do what I do, and I'm experienced in it, so it's a little easier for me. My higher self, or the jinn, or some kind of the angelic intelligence, whatever you want to call it. But there's a kind of internal sense, a wisdom that goes, oh, here's a mantra, and of all the ones either I've practiced in the past or what I've come into contact with, what I found, it just appears and says, you need to do this now. So this kind of thing helps me work around the jinn or the ritualistic stuff, or even the Taoist energy work, which also is kind of time-consuming and specific. Mantras in some way are simpler, but you need to get a lot of things right. And I've noticed that online, for example, even in Indian YouTube videos, they're telling you to do the pronunciation of certain vowels, and there's contradictions. So I go by something that works along what you might call the energetics of toning, which means that, well, Sanskrit tells you that every letter is one syllable. Every vowel is one syllable. Every syllable has only one consonant to it, and it usually follows the vowel, or it always follows the vowel. Some vowels have 2 beats, some vowels have 1 beat. There's an exception like Om. Sometimes you have a vowel with 3 beats. The O in Om, has 3 beats. And so does the M that follows, the nasal And the nasal in Om is more nasalized. In any case, that's the mantra. If you have any other, and this is for the benefit of the listeners too. If you guys want a mantra that's all-purpose protective and is very short, and you can commit to it for a certain period, 4 to 6 months, just part of your day. I mean, you could do 2,000 or 3,000 per day, and then it'll go down to you'll only do it for 1 month, for example, or a month and a half of toning, and then you'll have it properly charged. So this is it. It works. I use it, and for personal protection, and given the shortness of the tone, you can't beat it. So let's go on to the next segment.
Let's move on down my notes. I know I'm forgetting a lot of stuff, but it doesn't matter. I'm hitting the important stuff. So I summoned Person successfully. Yay! Now, putting him into the day and night position, man, I always second guess myself when I do things like this. Always. I like to go on what I feel. I like to go on sightings in nature, and I like to go on visions, and I like to go on whatever else. Doesn't matter. But I didn't really get anything other than, yes, you've succeeded. I got a good vibe from holding the sigils. Persons in the night. Salos, without the T, is in the day. Done. Now, I was sure about it, but like I said, man, I like to double check, and I didn't get any visions or anything like that, but I did kind of dowse an answer, a yes or no answer. The answer is definitely yes. I got a good feeling from holding the sigils, and I was I would say an altered state when I was feeling that feeling, because, it's like kind of hard to, do organ fusion and organ cleansing and the 9 cuts and all that without getting into an altered state. And so yeah, all right. I think I was successful at that. If I'm not, it doesn't matter, because I successfully summoned Salos and Person anyway, and I think I'm going to have to end up going back and cycling through these guys again and making sure that I have all 4 corners. Person, and now he's not as much of a web genie as, and he's a king, and I think maybe, Ari, you mentioned the kings are kind of web-oriented. So, but anyway, Person came to me, and as a human, but before he was a human, he was like kind of spread out and webby. He was like, he had a human face, but he had this long flowing veil that would reach out with electrical tentacles, and it was like, it was webby, and it was, and he does give a lot of things, he does present a lot of things. It's like, just go read about them. It's like treasures and all kinds of things. And so okay, that's kind of typical. They kind of give a whole lot of things. And so anyway, we got that going. And then we've got Oribus, who showed up as a horse, but then he was a man riding a horse. And then he was a man, but the man had this pomp about him, this like old school sophistication, handlebar mustache, had a French vibe to him, or maybe New Orleans, which kind of the same thing, sort of. You know, it's but it was definitely Oribus. Definitely. I've had enough experience with this guy to know it was definitely Oribus. Because, well, you know, he was like, yeah, I'm Oribus. And it's like, you know it. And a handlebar mustache, long beard, lot of style. Oh, so that's one of the things he brings. It's been a while. I mean, I've experienced this guy in so many different things, but he'll bring you prestige. I think I can't remember exactly the word that was written down, but okay, yeah, all right, okay. So that makes a lot of sense with Oribus now. I'm just slowly figuring these things out. Sorry. So anyway, okay. Well, guys, that's it. There we go. So tomorrow, I am going to, I don't know. I'm going to do my best tomorrow to summon Grimmery, and then, God, I hope I'm pronouncing that one right. Watch me screw up another name. So, and if I don't, well, then I'll summon him, you know, whenever I can.
All right, here you're talking about, Jay, about Oribus and Person. And let me say one thing about Person. The most likely meaning of the name means the spread out one, the one who is spread out, the one who is extended. So it has to do with an expansion dynamic, a field dynamic. You can call it a web, like I said, if you like. And I think I discussed this in the previous segment. But he's an expanded energy, an auric-like energy, and he's a very tall djinn. So the collaboration with Salos will probably influence Salos, and if he appears as a titanic big djinn, then it probably means that you got the pillars right. So their interaction is correct. It's working. And the thing is, the more you move through this, like I also had said before, and forgive the repetition, the intelligence of the system itself will help do it for you. The jinn are going to just interact with each other as pairs like they're supposed to, because you've already ingrained that through the first few practices, through the first few jinn. The first 4 especially, that's all it really takes, I guess. But once you get through the first 8, through the whole cross, then it's going to forge a kind of template for all the other crosses, so it should be easier, quicker, more reliable and understandable. And then as you develop confidence, you won't be second-guessing yourself as much. Now, I was going to take out Oribus because it pertains to the next step, a whole different topic. However, you are correct, and you have experience with Oribus, and he does convey regional authority, which means that you are have influence over your environment. Now, these all connect together because Oribus primarily protects your integrity. You don't get tempted, in other words. You don't get mentally influenced by negative energies, other entities, other consciousness. So it should protect against things like vampirism. Not only that, but the same integrity protection has to do with your regional authority, because you can actually command your environment in a sense. The reality listens to you. That's what region means. It means environmental. It's not like a political local thing. Oh, I can affect my hometown. No, because it also tells you that you gain the favor of friends and enemies. Now, enemies is often the term for foreigners. So the people in your neighborhood, yeah, you can influence those, but also the people outside of your neighborhood, strangers. So this is an aura that everybody picks up on, and Orobus does this. It's a kind of containment of consciousness. So you contain a positive consciousness and don't let the negative consciousness come in. He appears as what they call in old terms a dandy, a well-dressed, noble or business type or intellectual, somebody who basically has status. And so that conveys authority, and you got that pretty much. So that's pretty much what I want to say about that, except for grammary. And here we need to understand that the dynamic of the pillars is in reverse of the dynamic of the south direction, where the black pillar that gives you the how things are developing, it gives you the force, it's what you're applying to the white pillar, and the white pillar is your endpoint, your goal. And it comes first because you got to know what you want before you know how to get it. So in terms of the circle itself, the white jinn appears first, and you summon it first, you get a sense of it, but then you go to the other one and you cultivate the dark one even more, and then it goes back to the bright one and reinforces it. So in this case, Salos is the one that affects your charisma, your influence, your, shall we say, your sexual charisma, your life force charisma. That's how they interpret it, but it's more than that. It disrupts the conventional biases, like I said, and opens up to true magnetism. And then this is empowered by Pursan, which is a tall aerial energy being that extends its influence and opens up to treasures, because it opens up to certain divine influences, to higher knowledge. And in this way, you have a celestial dynamic grounding into you that beefs up this ability to overcome biases, to overcome programming, and to magnetize your energy field to become likable to the opposite sex. But that's more like an application. It's a core application. Salos is very energy-oriented, in other words, and hence it's a warrior. And the crocodile is the same like the crocodile in Agaris, which essentially, you saw Agaris is Odin, which has a certain tone to it. But here you have a similar thing, because again, the crocodile is the medium. It's the waters. The waters is the field around you, in general. Whereas Pursan extends into the field, extends into the higher levels of the field. This extends horizontally around. It's the Jing, the life force, the sexual energies. And in terms of Agaris, it's the same thing, but it also is instilled with the planetary energies. And if you have a viper, it tells you that Pursan extends into the higher energies, but it also has an energetic that resonates with the earth forces, as well as the kundalini and the flows within the body, the meridian system. So Gremori or Gamori is a kind of slang word which means the sex act, somebody who's having sex. And if you look at the sigil, it's actually a womb or female internal genital system that is penetrated by a phallus. So that cross that goes in from the bottom is a kind of phallic symbol. So the central point is the female. And then you see that the top part of the Gamori sigil, you have like curls, and these are the breasts. So it's a masculine influence upon the feminine, very similar to Salos, only Salos affects the mind. And the energy field that affects the mind. Here you go directly into a kind of feminine vibration where it kind of simulates, and that's why it says, well, it works if you want to seduce elderly women who are past menopause or young women who have not had a child yet. So this stimulates the pure reproductive system of the female. But if these women have had children, then it's already conditioned, you might say. So it's not as easy to do, but it's the same effect. The difference is that Salos is your primary pattern, where and Person reinforces it, modulates it, and shapes it. Whereas here it's Gamori or Gremory that shapes the primary pattern, which is Oribus. So Oribus gives you a charisma as well, but this charisma is empowered by the ability to, not machismo, but basically whatever attracts the female reproductive system aside from having children. It almost simulates the effect where you attract a mate because you're an ideal father or an ideal genetic whatever or something at least acceptable for future offspring, even though if the mind of the woman doesn't think that way. And again, the jinn happen to be male-oriented. It's not like only males can do them, but you have to rethink some of these guys if you're a female doing this work. So you can still use Gamori, but instead it's your own essence that's reinforced, so you attract males in a different way. Or you reinforce the integrity of your reproductive system, your reproductive psychology, you might say. So, and Jay had a dream with Gamori once, or that was Gamori-oriented, where it was almost like tempted for, oh, this girl is too young for me. And you didn't fall into the temptation, so it's almost like passing a test. Because this isn't really to seduce people. This is to establish the energy that happens to be related to that. Because Gamori also gives you treasures. And a lot of the dukes do the same, do that as well. The dukes are connected with Venus. They represent territories of life force energetics. Many of these are sensual or sensory. A lot of them have to do with harmony, with beauty, with proportion, things like that on a more abstract level. So when you do this with Oribus, you'll be able to interact in the north-south dynamic, because unlike the east-west, the north-south is an axial dynamic. It's like the north-south of the planet. So it corresponds to your human microcosm as a kind of stabilizing axis around which the east-west influences revolve. And it kind of creates a gravitic center. This way, this gravitic center is powered by, it's energized, it's expansive, so it extends into the environment, and at the same time, it is sensualized. You in the south, the sensual energy becomes your establishing pattern that's empowered by the subtle body, and in the north, the celestial axis, the presence of the axis sustains integrity because it's empowered by your sensual energy, your life force in the sexual sense as well. That way it's not forced, it's not moralistic, and it's not artificial, it's organic. This isn't a whole thing to go and get laid. This is in order to activate your deep biological energies and patterns to create a natural, organic, body-centered integrity. Before I sign off, I'd like to talk about Jay's dream. And Jay's dream came a little later after this recording. He sent it separately, but because he was very groggy while he was explaining it, it's essentially the jinn's answer to his vampire problem. They just gave him very specific directions of what to do. And mantras aside, please use the mantra, Jay, and everything else, and understand whatever. But the thing is, you've done enough with these 4 directions that they're starting to combine their energies. And in your case, dreams are the primary deep access of information and of understanding, if you can just interpret the symbolism. Normally you should be able to, but there's so much second guessing and chaos in all of this. But I can interpret it for you because we worked together for a long time, and I have a certain sense of of this kind of thing and of these kinds of communications. And it's very simple. Essentially what the dream was saying, the dream itself was, and I'm just really condensing it here, Jay had a studio, a place of teaching. And this place of teaching was known to his family. It's modeled after a real place. Essentially, it's his heritage. This place of understanding, this place of empowerment, where he can share empowerments with others. Only this time, the teaching, Jay is the one being taught. And he was working in this place, and he was painting it, and he wanted to paint it pink, of all things, to make it pretty. And his brother was scared of this, because allegedly this is his brother's inheritance too, so they're in on it together. And so this space is where the vampirism happens. It's a place of teaching, a place of sharing, a place of what you have to offer to others, for example. So when Jay has something to offer to others, whether it's personal relationships, whether it's entertainment, whether it's the greater field of humanity, whatever it is, or a job, the brother owns half of it. And not only does he own it, but he can influence the situation. So he wants to paint his colors in. Now, Jay wanted a pretty color, which is why. Well, remember what I said about the heart? Pink is a heart color, and it's a feminine heart color. It's a very it's a very mild energy, relaxing, and harmonizing, so it doesn't have conflict. And for some reason, his brother was afraid of that. And then the spirit of a dead cousin, I think, who died very young, and he was a master musician, highly talented, inspired, and very proficient regarding I think he played the fiddle or something, but he was very, very good, and he died young. And the spirit of this cousin who represents the inspiration that's aligned with Jay was saying, look, I want to contribute here. Just summon me. And Jay was saying in his communication, that not in the dream, but in his communication, that, well, this isn't necromancy. I don't want to deal with enslaving souls. It's like, no, this soul offered to participate. It wants to participate. It wants that connection. It's not the soul itself. The soul's off to whatever it's doing. This is the energetic essence that has the soul signature. So it's being offered to Jay because the soul itself says, well, I got my version. I don't really, I can share this. This will do both of us good. So just summon me, my memory. How do you do that? Oh, no, there's necromancy. No. You essentially honor the person the same way you hold a memorial service, but much briefer. Basically, remember the guy. Remember his music. You know how some musicians who have concerts go, I dedicate this to this guy. Or authors, I dedicate this book, this creation of mine to this other person. So, and you don't have to make it public either. You don't have to say anything to anybody. Nobody should know about this. This is just your personal thing. Like, I am not just dedicating it, but opening up to the spirit of this inspired musician to come and inspire me to play. And I focus on the pink color. So, focus on your aura as that pink color. Paint your aura pink. And the brother will feel weird about it. He can't approach it. He can't dominate because he doesn't relate to that kind of harmony. He wants the male classic blue. And this isn't going to make you into a gender ambiguous musician here. This is essentially the vibration that you're claiming. It's your inner being. So the heart is not going to compromise. It's colored pink because that means no conflict. It means no threats. It means peace and harmony and things that even a child could relate to because it's nice, benign, harmless. Only it's a vibration, which means it's not going to come in. So you can combine this with the mantra I gave as well, but also independently. So when you do play, just imagine yourself surrounded by this pink, harmonious, pretty energy. And remember the dream when you do that, so you don't have other distortions about it, just like I want to make it nice. And summon Val into it. And that's it. So you think on that and see how you can apply it and continue with the jinn work. And I'm going to let Jay sign off here. He's given us a nice and ample account. So Jay, thanks for your account, and we're going to anticipate your next account where you're moving into the north direction and the ramifications of that and all the rest of it, because I'm sure that anybody who's listening here is interested in how all of this fits together in application, because if I were listening, I would want to know, well, how does it work for me? Can I use this? And even if I'm not knowledgeable to use it, maybe you can give me some pointers about various things. So without further ado, till next time, Magus out, and give us the outro, Jay.
So yeah, all right, here we go. Let's do this. Dr. J out.